thank you for being here. I will present my thesis, which is the impact of anti-aging influencer content on women's aging anxiety, self-esteem, and purchase intention. Here I collected some comments that I found on TikTok on anti-aging influencer content. Many people were worried in their early 20s, asking if they should start taking care of their skin, or just some also saw that there was a negative side to it, that they were instilling fear to young people and just being overall tired about this surge of content. But this is nothing new. It has been going on for decades, and the anti-aging market is actually set to reach 80 billion by 2030. It is built on one simple message: aging is a flaw to be corrected and prevented. So we studied many areas in the study, and what we found was that media constructs and amplifies aging anxiety, even more so with algorithm amplification. Then authentic influencers are able to strengthen persuasion, so they successfully commodify anti-aging. We cannot forget about the psychological mechanisms with social comparison tendencies reducing self-esteem, and apparent anxiety leading to compensatory consumption. And then lastly, we learned that fear-based language manufactures and reinforces insecurities. Persuasion knowledge is a tool used here in order to resist to this type of framing. This was all studied with a focus on apparent anxiety or social media, but never about the anti-aging context. So that is why my research question is: how does exposure to anti-aging influencer content on social media influence women's aging anxiety, self-esteem, and consumer behavior? To do so, I conducted an experimental quantitative survey with two conditions that were randomized. Participants would either get the neutral language video or the anxiety triggering one. I ended up with 93 participants, but unfortunately only 75 of them were valid, and they were aged 18 to 64 years old. Before going into the hypothesis, I would like to discuss some important data. First, our participants are very active on social media, spending more than 3 hours on it per day, and they encountered a lot of beauty content daily, mostly through algorithm, but also via active researching. For the graph down here, we can see that in condition 2, so the anxiety triggering video, it was always scoring higher in condition 2. So here, for the first one, we can see that our manipulation was successful. People in condition 2 did perceive the video as more negative than in condition 1. So people in condition 2 had more aging anxiety and, of course, less self-esteem. Overall, we ended up with 5 out of 8 hypotheses validated. First, the single exposure was not enough to affect aging anxiety significantly. Social comparison was also not significant, but aging anxiety did drive both psychological and consumer responses. As you can see on this graph, it reduced self-esteem and increased purchase intention. For persuasion knowledge, it did not reduce purchase intention as expected, but it did increase self-esteem. So, it did not stop aging anxiety. It stopped aging anxiety from affecting self-esteem too strongly. On this graph, it's more clear. When we have a low average persuasion here at 16, we have a higher effect on self-esteem. It reduced it more. And with higher persuasion knowledge, the effect of aging anxiety on self-esteem was almost non-existent. What does it all mean? Well, first, a single exposure was not enough to affect aging anxiety. Secondly, aging anxiety turned out to be the engine of the model, So the single exposure was not what made the outcomes happen, but it was the aging anxiety that was built from the exposure to the video that did. So third, persuasion knowledge did not protect purchase intention, unfortunately. It could be that fear overrides rationality, and overall, being aware of the tactics used was not enough to stop the participants from wanting to buy. This is all posing an ethical concern because it shows that consumers remain vulnerable even when aware of manipulative tactics. So many actors should take responsibility. First, my recommendation is to brands. They should be more transparent and use evidence-based communication instead of fear-based language. Also, feature more diverse women. The first example that comes to mind is Dove with their Real Beauty campaign. They show diverse types of beauties, no matter the age, the size, the skin color, and it was received very well with their sales rising. They also reached a lot of people globally. Then influencers should realize the strength, the power they have over their audience, especially because of the bond they seem to build with them. So they should avoid fear-based language and also not lie about filters or retouching that they did. This is more and more important because we have younger generations on social media, and so we should not exploit their insecurities. For platforms too, we learned that many people encounter beauty content through algorithm, so they do have a responsibility in this. So they should push forward content that empowers women, show diversity. Lastly, for regulators, we could say that they should penalize misleading content, they should stop false claims, but that would not be enough. Instead, we should try to promote media literacy to protect the audience. An example that I have is one that Australia did with their body count program for high school students. They created the kind framework. So K for know the tactics used, the fear-based language, then be able to identify it in real time. Also, we should nurture people, so show them ways to be resilient, be more self-compassionate with themselves. And lastly, disrupt. So challenge the regulations that are in place, advocate for more, and support brands that have more ethical communication. This could be done from an early age, starting with high school curriculums to literacy programs in university, community spaces, and workplace wellness programs. Overall, this study did contribute to already existing research with its extension of appearance anxiety to more anti-aging focused with like social media as a focus. And we also were able to test persuasion knowledge, consumption theory, and social comparison theory in regards to anti-aging, which was not done before. There are, of course, limitations. First, the most obvious one is the small sample size. I did try to reach out to as many platforms as possible and social networks, but people just were not engaged to it, I guess. But it did. My results are still valid in my opinion, and this is a good starting point for future research. Then age and social media time were measured and mentioned, but not formally tested. So I think in the future that should be looked into to see how it affects the results. We could also use real influencer content to explore parasocial effects, as well as authenticity of the influencer, etc. Then the single exposure design was not significant, so it did not measure long-term effects. I think in the future we should try to test it out long-term and see how the repeated exposure can affect someone. via a mixed method approach to really see how they feel. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Limite, hein. Tout à l'heure, j'avais fait 9 minutes 30 et là, j'ai fait 10 minutes. Donc, je sais pas ce que j'ai dit en plus.